All right. Welcome, folks. We're just going to give everyone a couple minutes to trickle in.
This is what I do all day in my office when I'm talking to myself.
Nice. So we're just going to get started 2 minutes past the hour. As you're joining us, let us know where you are. Use the chat inside of Zoom. I'm here in Toronto, Canada. It is, I guess, as everyone expects it to be, snowy. We don't necessarily expect it to be consistently snowy at this time of year, but there's definitely snow on the rooftops. Yeah, love to hear from you. Love to see you message in the chat. Just while we take 2 minutes before we get started. Hey, Lysandra, Richmond, Virginia, in the house. Love it.
Hey, Lysandra. My mama lives in Richmond, Virginia. She told me it snowed there the other day, and I was like, "Really? What? No snow here." You guys know I'm in Baltimore, Maryland. It is probably a balmy 30 some odd degrees. But yeah, here. I wish the sun was shining bright, but it's not. It's kind of cloudy today.
Yeah, that's what makes the cold weather a little more tolerable. It's like when it's like sunny, when it's really sunny. And Megan calling in from Portland, love it. Lysandra was not excited about the light snow. All right, let's give it one more minute, and we'll get rolling. Meryl from Olney, Maryland.
Maryland.
Yeah,
Another
is that
MD
the
in the
correct
house.
pronunciation? Only?
Only.
Um,
That's yeah. Only.
yes, thanks, Meryl. Um, all right, let's jump into it. All right, so thank you everyone for joining. This is another episode of our Trailblazers series. Today we have the lovely Nayo Carter-Gray with us. Yeah, exciting. What we love to feature is cloud accounting leaders that have really found their own path, and help them share their stories with the community. And so Nayo is someone we've known each other for years, going back to kind of the HubDoc days, and it's always fun to work with smart people. Okay, so before we jump in, just a quick kind of Relay plug. Relay is business banking made easy. 3 reasons firms love us and standardize on Relay. 1, you can access your client's banking from the Relay partner portal. 2, you can enjoy reliable bank feeds and enriched data, so no more like chasing check number, like checks or check images. Nayo and I were just talking about this, and all the clients she's adding to Relay in 2021. And then the third thing is actually automating payables with approval workflows. So you can actually do multi-step approvals inside your bank account, which is pretty sweet.
Awesome. Nifty, neato, love it. I use it personally in my business. I have a couple of clients on it. If you haven't tried them, I recommend you do. It's no cost.
Nice. No cost. How easy is that? If you want to sign up, simply visit relayfi.com/partners and register, and someone will reach out to you to help you get set up. All right, enough of that. Let's get to the good stuff. Let's dig in. So sorry, there we go. So Nayo, all right, let's jump into the good stuff. Like I think the best way to kind of start these conversations is perhaps just with like a quick 60-second bio on you.
Ooh, I get to talk about myself, one of my favorite topics in the whole wide world. and I'm gonna hurt you, Yusuf. You know my name. It's Nayo Carter-Gray. I know everybody does. It looks like Mayo, pronounce it Nayo. It's all good. For those of you who don't know, I'm the owner and founder of First Step Accounting, located in Baltimore, Maryland, where we make accounting a little less taxing for small business owners all across the U.S. I primarily work with what we're now considering micro businesses that are in the beginning and kind of startup phases, primarily because the larger firms don't want to spend the resources working with those people, and a lot of them need the most assistance. And I relate the best with them because I am, a small business owner myself, so I know what it's like to kind of bootstrap a business. For my personal background, I'm an enrolled agent, so I'm licensed by the U.S. Treasury, currently sitting for the CPA exam, passed 3, have 1 test left. So you guys pray for me because it's coming up very soon. We mentioned HubDoc, top 50 cloud accountants in North America twice in a row, sat on the Intuit Accountant Council for a couple of years, currently sit on the Intuit Trainers Writers Network. You may have seen me in the QuickBooks ad. I was listed by Forbes as one of the top 100 tech Twitter accounts to follow, and most recently named one of the top 50 women in accounting by Practice Ignition. So your girl is over here working.
That is so awesome. So, speaking of being featured prominently, you were featured prominently at QuickBooks Connect this year. We saw you up on the big screen. It was a virtual big screen, but like still amazingly cool. What was that like?
So first of all, it was a complete shock to me. I had no clue that Arish was going to use the conversation she and I had in her speech. But so I thought it was pretty neat. I knew that they were going to do the commercial again, and then kind of ad-libbed some additional stuff. So it was pretty neat to be tagged on Twitter and to get some text messages like, I see you. So it's always exciting when you kind of get to see yourself from someone else's viewpoint. So to be featured in that way just makes me want to give myself a, pat on the back, because I feel like I'm working and sometimes I'm in the trenches and I don't get to see the rewards of my efforts, and that just kind of showcased it for me.
Nice. And, you started your firm in 2009. Was that something you could have envisioned back then?
Not at all. My firm actually kind of grew because of the recession. So if you don't know my background, I was doing accounting and taxes since I was in high school. I accidentally got placed in an accounting class, fell in love with it, and that first year discovered I could do my taxes and get tax money back. So I charged all my friends $25 to do their tax returns. So it's always been like this little part-time thing I did, even though I did it full-time for work. So when the recession hit, I got laid off. I was like, let's try this accounting thing full-time. I had no clue that at this point that I would feel like I'm making some major shifts in the industry in terms of, what we now see, what we now talk about. So I had no clue, but it's a good feeling to see it growing in this way.
That it is. And, if you look at this past 10 years, right, it's like going from kind of basically being laid off, trying something total, like something familiar, but like new in a lot of ways, right? Like starting your own business. Now that you're kind of 10 years in, like, what's your long-term vision? Are you like aiming for something in particular or just kind of taking it one step at a time? Like, how are you approaching it?
So it's still a day-to-day process with a larger vision. So I know one of the things that is very near and dear to me is making sure that I help the accounting industry shift the way it looks now to look like our world. And so part of that vision uh, is partly having a firm that's owned by a person of color, and being able to help expand that firm in some kind of way to benefit the local community, as well as be able to grow it on a national scale so that it's not just one little Nayo speaking on all the stages or being prominently featured. It's 5 of Nayos, or people who look like me or other people of color. So it's a day-to-day process because I'm still working in the weeds, but I can see the large picture, and it's just awesome to try to get there. I may be trying to rush through it sometimes, uh, but that those small actions, they make a huge impact. So one article, one quote, one video, doing all those little things add up to these much larger things that just over time grow to be bigger than me, little old me. So.
Well, I think we're all trying to rush towards that future.
I know. Yes.
Yeah. Right. I think everyone wants the debates or conversations about it to be over, right? Like,
Yes.
let's just kind of get there. So I mean, we had different kind of questions that we are going to ask before that, but since we're talking about diversity, like obviously, you're like outspoken on this, right?
Right.
And you've called out conferences and leaders in the industry of like, hey, why is this panel predominantly just white people or just white males, right? And it's like, this isn't what the industry actually looks like. Not only from like a gender perspective, but like a, personal color perspective. And so, where do you feel like the accounting industry is today versus where it was like when you started in like 2009?
Oh man, it's still sensitive. It's still, even though we're making strides, it's like it's, if I'm still calling it out 10 years later, then it's still a major issue. It's like we have these events, and even if you don't know a person of color, just looking at the optics, you can say, hey, this picture looks a little off. Let me reach out to my contacts to see if we can change visually what this panel looks like. Like, the thing that irritates me the most is when I see panels or topics that say the future of accounting, and it's filled with people who are in their 60s and 70s. It's like, are you forgetting about our young people who are coming up in this industry who are going to change it, and it's going to be vastly different than when we started with the green ledger paper. So it just, it's so frustrating that I have to constantly feel like I'm yelling it out, like, hey, black person over here, I do speak. There are other people out there like me who are qualified to go on the main stage and talk about accounting and bookkeeping and tax topics. So it's so annoying. But I do appreciate that now when I speak, people listen, because before it felt like I was yelling into a cup and nobody was on the other side. But now it's like, oh, if Nayo has a problem with it, maybe we do need to reconsider. And the action might not happen right away, but I've seen it, me say something, and then the following year changes have been made. So, like I can use QuickBooks Connect as an example. One year I spoke as a panelist, and they ask you as a panelist if you will share the event, and they give you some media assets. And I kindly sent an email saying, hey, I can't use these assets because they don't look like my audience. Can I use my own images? And to the person on that team, she didn't even realize that, like, oh, we do not feature any people of color in these ads. So the following year, shifts were made. We saw more speakers who were people of color, ladies, Latino. It was just amazing. And then they allowed me to have the Black Accountants meetup. So, they heard me when I spoke, and then let me take some action the following year. So it may not have been immediate, but I am seeing the shifts. It's just taking longer than I would like, but I am seeing some shifts.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like generally people are going to vote with their dollars, right? And those companies that listen, like Intuit does, like that's one of the best things about that company. Is so impressive, is that on so many fronts, they're just listening. They might not be getting it right all the time, but they're constantly just trying to get better.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like I think if we look at, the events of this year, we kind of hit it like a tipping point, right? In the conversation. And I remember when a lot of the BLM protests were happening, you kind of like called everyone out on Twitter, being like, "Hey, why are a lot of my not like Caucasian friends not saying something?" And I reached out to you because I was kind of like, "Hey, I'm over here. I obviously agree with like Black Lives Matter, like." That's something I agree with, but like I feel ineffectual like just tweeting something out, right? And just saying something. And I know that there had to be like a lot of other people that kind of felt similarly. And you made a really great point, which is like, and if I'm remembering this correctly, so please restate it if I don't quote it perfectly, was basically like, hey, we need your voice too. we need to hear that support. And it doesn't matter whether it's just a tweet, it still counts. And that gives other people permission.
Yeah, because a lot you will find that people listen to people who look like you. So if I'm yelling Black Lives Matter and I don't look like the person who's listening, they're more inclined to maybe say, oh, she's just an angry Black woman, there's no issue really going on. But if you, as my friend, you say, I love Nayo, she's my friend, and then you hear me out and hear my message and understand why I'm passionate about it, and you say, I believe in this cause too, someone who you're connected with will look and say, oh, well, Yusuf's my friend. Let me see what he's talking about and get a different perspective. So it's like, when we're talking about sensitive topics that people are just like, I don't know if I'm going to say the right thing. Having an ally kind of intro you into the conversation, or to put them at ease that it's okay for you to feel this way as well, makes it a little bit better. It's like Madeline Pratt. I love her to death. She called out Accountex UK, and because they had a lack of woman representation at the events, and hearing it come from her versus hearing it come from me is a whole, is taken a different way, because it's like, oh, she looks like us. She may have a point. She worked in the tech. She's been to these conferences. Me, I'm just like, who is this girl? We don't know her. She runs a little boutique firm in Baltimore. She's not part of the tech crew. She doesn't know anything. She's never been to this conference. So, it was easy for them to take that from her versus it coming from me. So being able to have, my good friends who don't look like me usher me in and say, hey, I got a person you need to talk to, you need to meet, who can help you change your org or your event. It comes across so much better.
That's a really good point, right? Like, I think we all take for granted how our voices are perceived, basically. Right?
Yeah, and I keep this little elephant here. This is my elephant in the room. It reminds me that diversity is important.
Love it. Does the elephant have a name?
His name is Elephant.
Okay. Good elephant name. That's perfect. So, this almost feels like a silly question, but like, what do you see as the opportunities for improvement? Like, is it just increasing, mandating a certain percentage of a panel being a more diverse group? Like how would you approach it if you're sitting in those, in conference, the people who organize conference organizers' shoes?
So, what's naturally going to happen anyway is that our world is increasingly becoming more diverse. So, one of the things that personally I've really stopped trying to do is change the older conferences, because what's going to happen is that old model is going to die. Like, the people who are running those events are getting older, they're going to retire soon. So those events probably won't be around in the next 5 years. I hate to say it. Some of them are just, old, stuck in their ways. Um, and then what will happen is the more diverse younger people are going to come forward with new, bolder ideas. Like, now we have, we're living in a virtual world, so we're doing a ton more online. So we're definitely not limited to people who can travel to a particular location to have good diverse speakers speak.
And like, let's say someone's considering getting into the accounting field, but are actually deterred by like a lack of diversity. What advice would you have for them?
Uh, if you're interested, if you're interested in accounting and you don't see someone who looks like you, ask, do you know someone who looks like me? Or join anyway and pull in people who look like you. So, one thing I am a big fan of is pulling friends along with me into the journey. So, I have built a network of peers, Black women, Black males, Latino females and males, and I constantly will say, "Hey, you need to meet these people. This person needs to speak," because they may not have a voice otherwise, but somebody has to be the person kind of pushing the door open. So, and I know it gets tough because I've spoken with students who are like, I didn't think I should do this because I didn't see anybody who looks like me. So, it's one of the reasons why I write articles all the time. And I'm like, let's focus on the people who are in college. Like, accounting is a dying art anyway. Just because of technology, but we know that accounting is necessary in order for businesses to survive. So we keep trying to change some of these older firms where we should actually be trying to uplift and encourage the generation that hasn't even started yet. So, I've spoken to a ton of firm owners who are like, hey, what can I do to help push diversity in the industry? I'm like, hire an intern that doesn't look like anyone else that's on your staff. Hire multiple interns, help them through college, help them get their CPA or EA license. So that way we can have more qualified, diverse representation in our industry.
And like, I think that brings up like a great topic, right? Like mentorship is so critical in any career path, right? And I would guess that like, finding people that are mentors might be harder if you're coming from, if you're a person of color, as an example. Like, how do you, I know we've talked about it before, that you have a lot of folks that you work with that are kind of up and coming. How do you get connected to them?
So I'll step back one step further. I'll step back a sec.
Okay.
When I was in college, I had the honor and pleasure of working at a local Black CPA firm. And I worked in the tax department. So I had a Black enrolled agent who had worked at the IRS for 25 years kind of mentor me. And still to this day, I can call on him. That's my guy, Ben. And he kind of helped me understand that there are different paths in the accounting industry besides CPA, because he was an enrolled agent. I was like, what is that? Nobody ever talks about it. So I took a page out of his book, and whenever I can, I go and speak at schools. I will go speak to clubs, organizations, churches about finances or being in the industry. And it's because I know that there aren't too many people who have the time or capacity to be able to do that. So I sacrifice a bit in order to do it. And then I'll try to do videos online, social media, answer questions, events like this where people are like, hey, we want to know more information, but where do we go to get it? And I constantly will volunteer myself to be that voice, the face, and all that good stuff. But where do I meet people? It all starts honestly online. Facebook has been a great avenue for me to kind of meet people, and or get to know people and then meet them in real life and fall in love with them. So it's like, we sign up for these apps, we have a sales rep, like, thinking about you. Yeah, we met probably via email. And then at a conference, I was like, I know you. It felt like we were besties, right? Because we had communicated online via email and understood what the needs were. And to get to see you in person is like, hey, we're connected for life now. And I do the same thing. So like my biz BFF crew, we all met Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and then met in person at a conference. So it's kind of awesome to be able to take those, online relationships, and take them offline and be able to build and grow from there. And so quite often I'll look for people who look like me, who are doing what I do and just aren't out there like that, and I'll befriend them. Or I'll go to a conference, like our friend Melanie will tell you, I saw her and I was like, are you by yourself? She's like, yeah. I was like, all right, you with me now. So I'll just pull people into the fold. For whatever reason, I'm extra extroverted and I tend to attract a lot of introverts. And so, they're part of the crew. You coming with me. I'm going to introduce you to everybody. What are your goals in life? I'm going to make sure it happens. I'm like the big honest cheerleader. You'll get the swift kick in the butt, but you're also going to get the push to get you where you need to go.
I love that. And like, So you mentioned your mentor that you've kind of stayed connected with since college. Like clearly mentorship is like a passion of yours, right? Like what role do you think mentorship of you as a practice owner has like kind of influenced that? Like what kind of sparked that love to help and kind of offer that same mentorship to others?
Because a lot of people think accounting is proprietary. So I have a system and you can't have it. And it's like, why not? Um, if you see someone and they're struggling and you have just a little bit of information that can help push them along or provide them with a resource, it's kind of like, why not? It's one of those things. You see somebody down, give them a hand up. You don't have to give them all the money in your pocket, but you don't have to leave them sitting on the ground struggling either. So, I do have products that I sell to other accountants, but whenever I can, if I'm in a group setting and we're all just shooting the breeze and kicking it, I don't have any problems telling you how I did something. So the information is free, the implementation is what's going to cost you.
Love that. And so, let's say there are folks on this call that are looking to give back to younger up and coming firm owners. Like, what do you think is an easy place to start?
The school you went to, whether it's a high school or college, go talk to, or if you're involved in a church or some other organization it deals with teenagers or young people, start there, because I can almost guarantee you the people who need the most help or who would appreciate the most help from the jump are those teenagers who have their first job and get that first paycheck and are looking at that check like, what the hell is FICA and Social Security and why are they taking all my money? Right? It's one of those things I talk about all the time. It's like our relationship with accounting and finance is negative from the start when we get that first paycheck. There needs to be somebody who intercepts that idea from the jump that says, hey, you are making money now so that you can pay those taxes, and that's a good thing. So let's change some mindsets here and start with the younger people and then work up. But start at the school you went to. If there isn't an accounting club, start one. Become an advisor. VITA, if you are doing taxes, is a good program to be involved in. Pull an intern into your firm. Start there. All of those things help. Even if you can't hire 5 people, hiring one person for a summer makes a huge impact because they'll remember what they learned at your firm.
And let's say someone is new to the industry and they're trying to figure out a way to kind of break through. And I would imagine if you're like coming into the accounting industry today, you might kind of feel like there's a bit of like an in crowd. You know what I mean? Like the folks that constantly respond to each other on Twitter, or like, they're pre-built relationships. How would you, like, if you were to do it all again, starting today, how would you try and like break through and kind of build those relationships, being the extrovert that you are?
So, I'll do what I did. Literally go in the Facebook groups, the accounting related ones. I actually took a course with Stacy Kildall, which introduced me to about 7 or 8 other accountants. And we stayed connected. And so just connecting with them and seeing what other groups they were in, what other programs they may have taken, what resources they were using, allowed me to be able to build my network of folks because I was building off of theirs. And so it started for me there. I probably would still recommend that. Take a course with another accountant who's like doing a mentorship program and learn their what they're doing and how it works for them.
Mhm.
Then adapt it for you. But the relationships you build with the other folks involved in that course, those are what is the most beneficial coming out of it.
Nice. And you just kind of build relationships from there, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I do. And then one of the things that I personally do is I like to try when I see up and coming bookkeepers, I like to bring one on in my firm and try to help them understand some processes from the jump. They may not have a bunch of clients yet, and they're like, I'm new to bookkeeping and I want to learn how to do this. And I'll hire them for a couple of months I know Lori Simnor is one who I worked with, and we met at a Firm of the Future event. And she was telling me that she was new, and I was like, okay, you can come work with me. And she was like, for real? And I was like, yes, absolutely. And that opening her up to new technologies, new way to do things, she's now thriving, and very supportive of anything that I do, and is one of our good people in the industry who's pushing the industry forward, because she was a traditional accountant who's now a cloud accountant. So it's evolved the way that we're now networking and mentoring and helping people along. So, you don't always feel like I got to do this by myself. I can't bring anybody on. I don't know anything. Even if you teach them one thing, it's so important. That one lesson, can you have no clue what the ripple effect is of that one thing they gain from you.
That's so true, right? Like the interactions or little things that we can do for others sometimes have a much bigger impact than we might assume. So let's talk about taking your firm virtual. So that was your summit that you put on for the first time this year.
Yes, that was a labor of love, and I am so proud of the event. So it was so funny because I tediously worked on this for a couple of months, about 90 days, and Lysandra helped me out immensely. She was one of my background people in the background cheering me on and making sure I got what I needed to get done. But the day of the event, we had a tech snafu soon as it opened, and everyone I fixed it was so graceful about, it's okay, it worked out. And then after those first couple of sessions, to get feedback like, this event is amazing, and I'm like, wow, we haven't even gotten through the whole day. It just made my heart smile. And the whole point of the event was because I wanted to create a conference that looked like the conference I wanted to attend. When I started in this industry, I've always wanted to be cloud based. I was paperless from the jump. There is no instruction guide on how to take your firm virtual. You kind of figure it out along the way. You see others who are like, I am a virtual firm, but it's like, how did you get there? They'll tell you about the tech stack that they're using, but they won't tell you the steps that it took or the trials and tribulations. They tried this, they tried that, they still done a hybrid of this to get there. So I wanted to not only give people the steps, but I also wanted to showcase some speakers who I know would never, ever get picked up by any of the bigger conferences because they're too busy working. But they have so much information and so much knowledge to share that I was like, we have got to highlight it because you're a superstar and nobody knows it except for me. So it was so important to me to be able to bring, people from diverse backgrounds. We made sure the event was closed captioned because I knew we had some people who were attending who were visually impaired. It was pre-recorded, and I tried to keep the session small so that people who were home working and also taking care of their children could attend, as well as have breaks to help their children out with the schoolwork or to be able to do a little bit of work on the side. And then for those people, and we kept the event free initially because I wanted everyone to have access. For those people who had the resources, they upgraded to be able to have lifetime access. So, the feedback I got from some students attended, they sent me messages on LinkedIn. Like, I was so happy that this was free. I learned a whole lot. And from just, like Megan sent a tweet and was like, man, this event was diverse and the day isn't even halfway over. All of that stuff it just made me realize that I'm not crazy. I know what the heck I'm talking about. We can build events that are diverse in nature, that are informative, that can be free, but also make some money. So it's like, let's just build a better accounting industry as opposed to I'm trying to get rich off of these accountants here who just don't know what to do. Just like, let's teach them.
Nice. I mean, there's so many questions I want to ask about it. So I think, a criticism you could give of the accounting industry in general, just in terms of like the sale of, be the advisor, that's the trusted advisor, whatever the phrases that we've all heard over these years, but it's often like kind of like what you should do as opposed to how you should do it, right? You
Yes.
should use QuickBooks Online. You should use Relay, obviously. You should use, HubDoc or ZBank or whatever it is. But unfortunately, what often is neglected is like the steps, right? Like people kind of need, hey, give me a checklist. It might not be perfect for my business, but it might get me 50% of the way there, and then I can kind of navigate. Like, how do you think about kind of the right balance between introducing people to like the subject on the whole versus kind of giving them the tactical step-by-step?
So back to the information is free, the implementation will cost you. So
Right.
I can tell you exactly what I do, but to see it in action is a whole different thing. So, there are some people like we mentioned advisory. Most people are like, what the hell is advisory? I don't really understand what that is.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a course about going from free to paid advisory services. To simplify it, advisory is giving advice. We do it all the time, but it's somebody helping you recognize and point out, here's what you do, here's how you can get paid for it. Most of the conferences are, here's the software you can use to do it. And those softwares are generally for the bigger firms. It's kind of like they leave out the small guys. Either you're extremely small or I have a team. They leave out the people in the middle. So like I'm a middle person. I need some of the features of the team plan, but I don't have 5 people working for me. So you want me to pay for 5 seats, but I really only need these 2 extra things. And so that was the other part of the conference, was making sure that the people who are in extremely small to I'm getting up to this team have somewhere to go to learn about, okay, what are other people doing who are in the same bubble like me versus the people who have a firm with 200 people that is a national firm. It's like the two don't mix. And so I recognize that from attending all the conferences that I go to, that sometimes you're not really reading the room. Who are you talking to? Who's your audience? Are you talking to the big firms, or are you talking to the extremely small guys? So, I think some of the software companies are just a little out of touch with that. It's all about how much can we get in recurring revenue, which is cool. But some of these features is like, step it back, just add a little middle plan, right? A middle plan.
Yeah. Or just spend more time with customers and understand what their real struggles are, right?
Yeah.
Hey,
And
that was
the other thing about that too, so like I'm a non-traditionalist, so I don't just stick with accounting apps. I try all the apps that may not even be accounting specific, and they may work for our needs, because sometimes what we need is not an accounting app, it could be a productivity app. So it doesn't have to be accounting specific. And it may have those little limits that are perfect for where we are today. So, that for me, that's always the thing. I'm like, y'all are not reading this room. This is not, the people who are attending this event need something different.
And so I know you're going to do the summit again next year, but like, what was the most rewarding part of putting energy into creating that event for the community?
The feedback, like just hear, like having people pay attention to things they never even thought they needed to pay attention to. So like my session, for example, was on data security. We all know we need it, but nobody's ever taken the time to break down the key 5 things we need, and then to take it further and say, here is how you can extend the 5 things and take it up a notch. So I tried to build on, from I'm just starting my firm, I don't know what tools I need, to I have a firm and I'm ready to hire. How do we keep these remote staff engaged? And so I mentally mapped it out. What do I need people to learn along this journey? And if you go back and look at the course descriptions, you'll see it went from tools to marketing, to data security, to actual work, so advisory, audits, tax to hiring, and then into a thought conversation about where the future is going. Where should I be focusing my energies? And so for me to see all of it kind of come out, and people get introduced to speakers who they were like, he was awesome. That was huge for me too, because I know like some of my speakers I kind of had to push, like, you need to do this. And then like nobody knows me. They don't want to hear from me. And I'm like, trust me, it'll be fine. And it went over so well. So there wasn't any speakers who got negative reviews. So I was happy about that too. Because you're always worried, like you have an event and then people are like, oh, this speaker was terrible, it was so boring and dry. We never want that either. So everybody got glowing reviews. It was awesome. So I am hoping to recreate it again August 2021. I'll have dates by the end of the year, so they will be announced. So if you're not following me on Twitter, make sure you are.
Nice. And the website is takingyourfirmvirtual.com.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. That's a good domain.
I was surprised it was available, just so you know. I purchased it last year. So it was a passion project of mine too. And I'll be completely honest. If COVID had not hit, it probably would still be sitting on the shelves. I had a keynote lined up in Brazil. So I was all ready to spend all my time
In
to work,
Brazil. Yeah.
to focus on my keynote. And it got canceled. And so I was like, uh what are we going to do now? I need to be able to speak. This is my goal in life, to be able to improve my speaking capabilities. And I was like, well, I have this. And then I started hearing stories about people, tax preparers, who were coming from the brick and mortars and just having to pick up and go home and work. Some people didn't have virus protection on their computers. A lot of them didn't know how to remote into a computer. They were completely lost. And so I was like, I have got to do this now, because I do not want any business owner or taxpayer to continue to suffer with people who do not know cloud technology and how to make this jump. And so that's really where the desire to, like, okay, I got to do it now came from, because I started hearing those horror stories. And I was like, wow, you didn't know you needed virus protection? Like, at a bare minimum, your cable provider offers it for free. That is one thing every computer should have.
That is pretty basic. Um, so like as you look back, I think we all think of 2020 as this kind of curveball of a year. And I think we're all generally happy that it's coming to a close. If you were to talk about one thing that went well for your firm, other than getting the summit live, which I think is a great thing, and so I'm going to steal that answer and say let's avoid that one. But what's something that went right for your firm in 2020?
I hired my mama. So some of you know, mama came to work for me this year. We had a couple little hiccups earlier this year. She was calling me little Chucky because I had to fuss at her about doing her work wrong. But now she's finally starting to get it, and we're in a groove. So it's very good for me and very rewarding that I get to bring my mama into the fold, because my mother all my life has worked two jobs, and one of them has always been a backbreaking job. She loves to clean, and so she's always done something in cleaning services. But she's getting older and she's complaining about how her back hurts and her legs were hurting. And then I was like, well, how much are they paying you at this other job? And she told me. I was like, oh, girl, if you don't quit, I can pay you that. And so she did. And the pandemic hit, and I was like, oh, snap. Am I going to be able to keep paying mama? But luckily for me, and just this year financially has been a really good one. And it has a lot to do with me having a social media presence and me not being afraid of video. And so I was very happy that I have been able to keep my mama employed the entire year. And we have cash in the bank to keep, like I told her, if she get all her work done this month on time, she'll get a bonus. So, to be able to do that for mom has been probably the absolute most rewarding thing for me this year.
That's awesome. And what are you most looking forward to in 2021?
Finding somebody to answer all these daggone emails of mine. But no, seriously, it is time to bring in somebody else because for the longest time, I've been a one-man band. I have learned how to automate just about everything. But in order to continue to grow, I know I need some help. And so the most important thing I'm looking forward to in 2021 is actually hiring someone so that I can have some of my life back from working.
Love it. And if folks on the webinar want to get involved in your next summit or hear more from you, where can they find you?
I am everywhere. Nayo Carter-Gray, Instagram, Twitter. I play a whole lot on Twitter, Instagram. And then if you want to follow Taking Your Firm Virtual, it is taking TYFV. I forgot it. The Twitter handle. I think it's like Taking Your Firm TYFV something. Let me look real quick. But that's where all of the announcements will live. I love to announce all the good stuff on Twitter first. It tends to go faster that way. Travels fast. Oh, there it is. TYF Virtual 2020. So we're gonna have to change the handle because we need it to be, forever and a day now.
That's
But if
wicked.
you just follow me, Nayo Carter-Gray, I'll make sure you find out all the good stuff.
That's wicked. Thank you so much for spending time with us. I know we have a few minutes left for questions. If anyone has any, please add. It's funny, when you said while we just wait for the folks that are on the call, I can see you're there, so please do ask questions. Throw them in the chat, throw them in the Q&A. But while we're doing it, it's so funny when you said, not being scared of kind of is stepping up and like not being scared of video or like, sharing your voice. I think, no matter your background, it's like that can often be a daunting thing, right?
It is hard. It
Yeah.
is extremely hard. And, I just helped my dad. So my dad makes these fabulous handcrafted bags, and he wanted to do a Black Friday sale. And I helped him kind of craft his strategy for that. He wanted to do it live on Facebook Live. And I was like, Dad, it's going to feel really weird when this is your first time going live. I don't want you to do that. I want you to record the video and we can do a little editing and make a little tweaks. And then you can sit live and watch the comments roll in. So he shot his video, and the first video was terrible because going live is daunting. You feel like you're talking to yourself. It's kind of like you're nervous. You're like, where do I look? Where do I put my hands? And so, it's hard. It is difficult. But the more you do it, you get into the practice of doing it, the easier it gets, the better it gets. Then you start upgrading your setup. So we were talking earlier about cameras and lights. So, now I wear glasses, I have lights, but we have to work on this kind of stuff to make sure that you can see me, but there isn't an ugly glare. And so I love just working on that kind of stuff just because I like hearing my own voice sometimes too. Well, no, that's a lie. When you listen to your videos back, you will hate your voice, but you get used to it. And if you want to do videos and you're terrified and scared and you're like, I'm nervous, start with stories. They disappear in 24 hours. So worst case scenario, you have a video that's up for 24 hours and nobody watches it after the 24-hour period is over.
It's true. I remember the first time I heard my own voice played back to me and I didn't, kind of cringe. And I was like, this is probably as good as I'm ever going to feel. I feel neutral. I have no opinion on it. Yeah.
But it's funny. And I want to shout out Lysandra too. So with the event, Lysandra did a 5-day video challenge for the Taking Your Firm Virtual Summit Pass holders, all access pass holders. And one of the young ladies shot me a message that told me she did the challenge, was 5 days of live video. She was like, I didn't want to do it. I hated them, but I did them anyway. Well, she got $22,000 worth of business from those 5 videos. She said one of her old classmates saw it and contacted her, and they had a business that had 4 businesses. And so she got a nice chunk of change from doing 5 videos. So if you don't think videos work, they absolutely do.
That's pretty sweet. That is really sweet.
Yeah.
While we wait for just a single question from anyone, please.
They don't have questions. I'm like an open book. They're like, Nayo just talks and talks.
What last question from me, and hopefully someone chimes in. I know we've got folks here. What tools, you talked a lot about automation. What tools are taking center stage for you this coming year?
Okay, so first things first, I hate answering the phone. So this is a tool. It's an old school tool, but it is probably my favorite thing. I have an answering service, answer all my calls, because we get stuck on the phone. It's like, I got a quick question, and next thing you know, it's an hour later and you haven't got anything done. So right now they were just answering the calls. Now I'm going to up the contract so that they can actually schedule appointments for me as well. So that is number one. The second thing that I am about to kind of embark on and take a good hard look at is my project management system. Last year, I kind of got fussed at by some clients because they didn't know what was going on, and I created a system, but I'm like, I don't really like it. And so I always set an appointment with myself so that I can actually go through my processes and see how to fix it. So the project management system is going to be key too, because now I got mom working for me and the goal is to hire somebody else. I have to be able to delegate and know and make sure that the people who I delegate to know what they're supposed to be doing and are getting it done. So that is, I don't know what the tool is going to be just yet, but that's the thing that I know will take center stage for me, because I hopefully will be living and breathing in the project management system. But I can give another tool that I absolutely love. And it's not an accounting tool. So I try to write blogs and articles. And one of the tools that make that so much easier for me is Pro Writing Aid. I love it. It's like an add-on for either Google if you're using the Docs, or if you're using Word, and then they have their own app as well. And I've paid for the lifetime subscription because it gives you insights into how you're writing, whether you're writing in the passive voice, or you can compare yourself to one of your favorite authors. I'm not a good speller, so it will tell you when you're spelling things wrong. It will help you correct your grammar along the way. So that tool has been invaluable for me, especially since I started doing more writing this year too.
Nice. And that was called Pro Writer Aid?
Pro Writer Aid, yep.
Nice. Okay. And so we've got a question from Jadra, and she's signed in as Megan because she couldn't get a confirmation email for some reason. I apologize, Jadra. So she really appreciates what you said about building a better accounting industry and instead of trying to claw our way up in the same old system. Like, let's build our own system. What is one place to start with the adults? I speak at colleges and universities, and I'm working on the kids. Where can I start with kind of the adults?
So where I normally start is helping them pick a accounting system. So whether it's QuickBooks or Xero or FreshBooks or Wave, they need to pick something and kind of learn that system, because it's so much easier to be able to grow or build a business if you know the tool you want to work with and you're not trying to do it all. Like for me, when I have people come to me and they use QuickBooks Desktop, I will instantly say, I'm not a good fit if that's the program you want to stay in. So I've chosen to be right at this moment QuickBooks mostly. And I say mostly because I have a couple of clients who are not on QuickBooks, but 95% of them are. QuickBooks mostly. It's easy for me to work. I can work fast. I've created standardized templates for chart of accounts. I stay up to date, knowing what's new, what's improved. And that way I'm not keeping track of 5 different accounting systems. So I always start there. Start with the accounting system, help them get certified. Once they get that, that's a confidence booster. It's like, I know the software. And then if they have their own clients, or they don't have in their own clients, have them come work for you for a couple of months so that they can see your processes, and then possibly take it and help them grow their firms. So that's what I do. And it doesn't have to be a large scale thing. Like you don't have to work with 15 people at once. You can do one, because that one person will feel the gratitude from you helping them and will do the same thing for someone else. So in turn, at some point, 15 people will get helped and served.
Nice. And it, like, if the question was also kind of, if Jadra is finding kids at colleges and universities and she wants to know where to find adults, like, would you just recommend like Facebook groups, like Twitter? Are
I
those
do.
basically your best bets?
Yeah, but it's very hard. I'll be honest. It's hard to find adults who are in this industry who will admit that they're failing in this industry. Most of them struggle along silently. So, which is why, when I do the internship, I go to Jan Hugo's group, the USA Bookkeepers. Most of the people in that group are fairly new to the industry, and I'll say, "Hey, I'm looking for an intern. Anybody who's looking to grow their practice but wants to work alongside an established accountant for a little while until they get more clients, you feel free to send the resume." So that way they don't have to feel embarrassed that they are struggling in this newfound arena, because for most bookkeepers, accounting and bookkeeping is their second career. That's the one thing that I figured out. Same thing with tax pros. A lot of them don't start in accounting. This is something that they're doing after they did something else, and so they may not understand all of the debits and credits, but they may understand how to work software. So they have some uses, some benefits, some background that you can learn from as well. So, like I had a writer work with me. That's how I learned about Pro Writing Aid. Like, I don't write, I'm a numbers girl. I could barely spell. I was at the spelling bee doing like this, trying to spell letters out. Like, not my jam.
I think the idea of finding those groups of people that are just starting out is like an awesome one. One of the communities we're pretty plugged into is like a bookkeeper launch, or you can find the Facebook group. It's like BBL Family. That is really good. And Jadra is asking a question again. Do you offer paid internships?
My internships were paid. They didn't pay much, but I did pay them because I value people's time. So, they were learning from me, but I was getting some use out of them as well. So, to be honest, I don't pay as well as QuickBooks Live, but um, I did offer paid internship. But you may find, if you don't have the resources, you may find somebody will be willing to work just to learn. And if that's the case, value their time. So don't waste it. Don't try to give them 10 clients. Maybe give them one or two, help you catch up on a couple of jobs, and take some time to actually teach them some things so that they feel like their time traded is worth the lessons that they learned.
Nice. That's awesome. Cool.
Yeah, because there's
Nayo,
some people.
and I'm saying it perfectly. I am saying it perfectly. Good. You don't understand the anxiety I felt this entire hour about, like, I want to say it again, but I don't want to get it wrong. I would feel so terrible. Um, Thank you
No
for doing it.
worry, Joseph.
This was great. Exactly. You'd be surprised how little I pay attention. I hear Yosef, I hear Yusuf. It's the same thing to me, basically.
Yeah, I know. Me
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
It's like Nayo. It's like, yep, it does look like Mayo. It's actually Nayo, but it's all good. We good. We're good.
I might spend 5 minutes after this just practicing. So it's
And then the next time you see me, you're gonna mess it up again.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can hit me with that. Cool. Thank you so much for joining us. This was really awesome. This is all being recorded, so it'll be emailed out. Thank you, Nayo. God, almost did it again. Okay. All right. Thank you. Bye.